B-17 Flying Fortress. No other combat aircraft of World War II is as recognizable or loved as the B-17. It wasn't the fastest. It didn't have the greatest range. It didn't carry the largest bomb load. Yet the B-17 still remains to this day the most recognizable combat aircraft of World War II. Glamorized and even romanticized by Hollywood and the War Department with such films as The Memphis Belle, Combat America, and 12 O'Clock High, the B-17 became a household name. Across the big screen, time and time again, we saw the trials and tribulations and the sacrifice by the men who flew in these machines. And sacrifice they did. Out of over 12,000 B-17s manufactured, over 4,000 were lost in combat. The Army Air Corps suffered the highest casualty losses of any branch of the armed services. The life expectancy of someone on a bomber crew was that they would not survive 11 missions. But survive they did, and many of the crews will tell you it was because of the B-17. The amount of damage the B-17 could sustain and still remain flight-worthy was amazing even to its designers. Time after time, the B-17s would be nearly destroyed and still find ways to limp home to their air bases. This survivability of the lumbering aircraft developed into a love and admiration by their crews that exists even to this day. But this is not a field in London, and this is not the 1940s. This is the 21st century. And at this Jet Center in Atlanta, Georgia, they are playing host to one of the heroes of the World War II era. This is the Collings Foundation B-17G, the 909. Out of over 12,000 B-17s manufactured, the 909 remains one of only a dozen flight-worthy B-17s in existence in the entire world today. And she is a warbird, still flying high. The 909 doesn't reside in a hangar or in a museum. For 10 months of the year, she is on the road with one purpose in mind: allowing people to get up close, touch, and see a piece of great American history.
I've been traveling with the foundation off and on now for about 6 years as a volunteer. And I've been coming out here basically to fly these old antique airplanes and to meet the veterans, talk to them, listen to their stories, to help educate some of the children when they come by, the school children, and just to kind of give the people an opportunity to see a piece of history here.
And come they do, the young, the old, and most important, the fine men who served in these aircraft.
My name is Henry Berryhill, Jr. I was a B-17 pilot during World War II.
I'm Bill Crawford, and I was a pilot in the 8th Air Force.
I'm MC Neely. I joined the Air Corps in November the 2nd, 1942.
And I think that's one of the really nice things that we do out here, is give it the opportunity for the people that actually flew in these airplanes and went to war and sacrificed everything they did for us and our children and our grandchildren and their children, and have them come out and participate in this activity as far as looking and seeing the airplanes.
I've always felt very fortunate that the plane to which I was assigned for combat was the B-17. I feel I owe my life to the B-17. It brought me home 30 times, and I just, there's no way I can sing the praises of this great airplane any more than saying that.
The 909 is sponsored by the Collings Foundation, a nonprofit organization whose goal is to provide people with a living history, something they can see and touch, not something that's kept under glass at a museum.
I am delighted to be able to see this plane again because I feel that as I march through life, this plane has been a part of my destiny.
On one of its many stops, you can climb up inside the 909, just like they did 60 years ago, and see what it was like to look out through the plexiglass nose or sit in the bombardier's chair.
So my name is Paul Connolly, and I'm visiting this old warbird. I have to come up whenever they bring him into town to pay my respects, as I served in this airplane, just like this one, over 60 years ago. And I have my grandson, Will. I wanted him to have the experience of being up here in the front with me.
This gun looks kind of cool.
Yeah, that gun's sort of cool. Yeah, the Navigator had two of them. Now my guns, can you see them down here? Look, this is how I control. This doesn't work, but this is how you bring that over, and you had an optical sight, and you can aim those guns down there at the other plane. See the guns at the front now?
Yep.
This thing controlled, it doesn't work now, but it had a optical sight, and you could shoot anything came in front of you. But you had a good view of everything up here, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could see the flak, and you could see the fighters, and you could see all the
I can see everything.
You can see everything, that's about right.
Besides the other side of the world.
Yeah, you wish you were at the other side of the world, yeah.
On a beautiful summer day like today, we can only imagine what it must have been like to have flak bursting all around you and fighters trying to shoot you down. This is the gun control for the electric chin turn. Standard 50 caliber machine guns were replaced by chin turns in 17Gs to provide extra defense against frontal attacks. On either side of the bombardier are two cheek-mounted 50 caliber machine guns that the navigator or the bombardier could use. To move from the bombardier and navigator station, you had to crawl on your hands and knees to a small crawl space, which emerged underneath the top turret right behind the pilots.
I've heard quite a few people talking about how tight it is getting inside the airplane.
The B-17 was designed in 1935, and it was not designed for comfort. It was designed to defend our nation. And when people go through here, they say, oh my goodness, it's so cramped and so tight in here. In the movies, it looks like it has so much more room.
That's interesting to me because during World War II, it was not very tight in the airplane. We got around pretty easily in the airplane. And I've been in the airplane now and it's awfully tight. It doesn't seem near as large as it did during the war.
We had a mission one day, and the weather was bad, so we had to hold for weather improvement, and we were out on the ramp there, on the hard stand, and I told my co-pilot, Chink Hema, I said, Chink, just time me and see how long it'll take me to get from my seat to the bomb bay to bail out. So he did, and I got out, jumped out of that seat, and I tried to get between the armor plate and on the pilot's and co-pilot's seat, and I couldn't get through there. It was too narrow. I tried as hard as I tried, I couldn't get through there. So you'd have to take that chute off, the harness off, go through there and put it back on, and then bail out. And later, it wasn't long before they gave us the British British chutes, the chest type, that you just snap on right here, and we would hang it on behind the armor plate on a hook there when we got on the airplane, and then you just wear the harness on inside, you know, and then you could climb through there in a hurry, and then after you got through, snap it on, and then bail out.
Going in the, up in the cockpit of the airplane of the B-17 now, it seems smaller. I could get claustrophobia. Nowadays, where during World War II, I never even considered claustrophobia.
It is very tight in here, and this is very original. The airplane, we've kept everything in here, the gun turrets, all the instruments with the exception of updated avionics for flying at today's air traffic control system are all original. We have it very original, and people are just so surprised how small it is in here.
Access to the rear of the plane was via this slim catwalk, not an easy task when wearing a flight suit and a parachute. And if you have any questions about a B-17, just ask a veteran.
Well, I mean, right now, if you get in there, see that open spot right there?
That's where he fired the gun, and the radio room is just a little bit forward of that.
Yeah, well, it's under, under that.
Yeah, right under that.
Touring this airplane, you can almost see the ghosts of the past at their station. The B-17 was called the Flying Fortress because it was literally bristling with machine guns. 13 50 caliber machine guns total. Other improvements to 17Gs, in addition to the electric chin turret, was staggering of the waist gun placements. Plexiglass was also added, where before, in earlier models, waist gunners were subjected to the 50-degree below zero winds rushing through the aircraft. Staggering the gun placements also gave the gunners more room, where before they were back-to-back and often interfered with each other.
Well, we had this new B-17G. Went down for briefing for the first mission, gave the number, I believe it was 075 or something, for the one we'd been using to practice with. Ball turret gunner turned around and says, "Sir, we've got a new B-17G, why aren't we flying that?" That briefing officer came back in a hurry. "We can get all the men we want, but we can't get new aircraft every day. You think we're going to risk a brand new aircraft with a brand new crew?" And that was the answer.
I flew 35 missions. My first mission was Tailgunner on the lead ship, and my first target was Conference. When I started to get out of the tail gun, there was a hole about the size of a basketball all the way through this. So that was my first mission.
When the 909 makes one of its many tour stops, other organizations involved in restoration of warbirds often come out in support, and today is no exception.
I'm with the Georgia Military Vehicle Preservation Association. We're the state chapter for the national group, Military Vehicle Preservation Association. Our basic goal is to refurbish old military vehicles from all different wars, everything from, say, World War I through Desert Storm and later. We're proud that we can just keep the history of our fighting men going and let people know the tools they used and what they actually went through.
Veterans aren't the only heroes you'll meet on an outing like this. You'll also meet heroes of the home front.
As a matter of fact, we had one lady out here that actually riveted on this particular airplane because we looked the serial number up and the date that she was working at the factory, and she said, "Well, I built the nose portion of it." So we had her sign her signature up in the nose of the airplane because she actually built and riveted on this part of this very airplane. These stories are just tremendous, and I wished everybody in the nation could hear some of these great stories. And
Collings Foundation was started back in 1979 to preserve living history events. First, it started out with antique cars and hill climbs and recreations along those lines. And in 1984, it moved in a different direction. We acquired both the B-24 Liberator, which is behind me, and the B-17 Flying Fortress.
The B-17 that we know as the 909 rolled off a Douglas aircraft manufacturing floor in the spring of 1945. Though she arrived too late to see combat, she was utilized by the military as an air transport vehicle and an air-sea rescue vehicle. During the 1950s, she was outfitted full of scientific instruments and was used in the nuclear testing program, where she was subjected to 3 nuclear blasts. Following this, the B-17 sat in a boneyard for a cooling down period, where she was scavenged for spare parts. Many bombers were converted for civilian use after the war. This B-17 was spared the guillotine of the salvage yard when she was converted into a tanker to fight forest fires. The Collings B-17 gets its namesake from a B-17 that flew in the 91st Bomb Group 323rd Squadron. It flew over 140 missions without the loss of a single crew member. Like so many other aircraft, the original 909 was scrapped after the war. The Collings Foundation has painted this aircraft in honor of the original 909 that served so diligently. Touring the 909 is an amazing experience. To be able to be so up close, to touch and feel this piece of great American history. To be so close you can smell the gas, feel the cold steel. But the Collings Foundation allows you to take your B-17 experience just a little further.
Number 3. Okay, start turning number 3. 4, 5, prime, 7.